Hello, everyone. Welcome to this early class. I know it's always 9 a.m. for you guys, but I'm usually not up for another hour. Um, everyone, welcome to this very special SAL lecture. And this is special because I'm not Tony Saxon, as you can figure out, because our voices are very different. And I think Tony normally shows his camera at this point. I'm not going to because I'm not a morning person and I look like a train wreck. So you don't need to see that. Uh, yes, my name is Tony Bagsby. Some of you may have already seen me if you're in the Discord a lot. I am in the Discord a lot because I'm the associate course director of shading and lighting. I mostly do everything for the online class. Of course, Tony Saxon and I help each other out in places, and Tony definitely helps me out in the online, but the online is basically my domain for the most part. And that's why I'm on the Discord all the time, because I do the online class in there a lot. Yeah, that's me. Here's a little bit of some of the things I've done so you guys know who I am. This is old now, man. I got to update this stuff. But I worked on Tiger Woods Online. That was sort of, well, I worked on Tiger Woods. And then I did work on Tiger Woods Online. But that was sort of my big, cool, like, industry job that I had. And then I started working at Full Sail because things change. And I've done other things. I do a lot of contract work and have done a lot of contract work. I am also, and in that capacity, I run my own little art house where I still get to do cool things and work on games. And so two of the images you see here are from some of the games I worked on. So one of the games is called Disc League. That is the one up at the top that has a lot of purple and pink in it. And then one at the bottom where you see a lot of bone-shaped things was from a game I worked on actually before I started my company called Squee Dogs. And so that was really fun. I got to make a bunch of dog-shaped things. And they told me, like, if you can make, like, fit a bone in anything or, like, a nice paw print or something, go ahead and do that. So I just made a lot of paws and bones and shaped things. It was no fun. I'm actually really proud of that car because I really loved it. So good times. But that's sort of my thing. I've done a lot of work with Unity. I've done a fair amount of work with Unreal. And we've just kind of, I got my start in games. At EA, I actually ended up doing a lot of material work and texture work, especially. I do kind of really enjoy doing materials and textures quite a lot. So it is a good deal. That's kind of where I got my experience that brought me into shading and lighting. I know Tony Saxon's definitely more into lighting than I am. But when we hit materials and textures, that's really where I start to come alive. And the first reason that Tony actually invited me to start preparing this lecture before I was even working for him, I was working at another class in Full Sail, was because I really love Substance Painter. I dove right in and learned it very early. And so I'm still one of the people at Full Sail that is, like, known to be one of the substance people. So that's why I'm going to be teaching you guys Substance Painter today, because I have quite a lot of experience with it. And I find it to be a really good tool. Okay. So let's start talking substance. Why should we use substance? This is a question I always like to pose. Because let's be honest, if we really wanted to put our mind to it, we could texture everything in this assignment without substance. At least to a degree. It definitely would look better if we use substance. But why? Why do we want to use substance? What does it make easier? And what does it enable us to do that we couldn't do before? You guys are being very vague. You're like, better detail, smaller detail. Layers. Okay, that's a good one. You could still do layers in Photoshop, but the Substance Painter layers do have a little bit more going on. Manipulate art textures more. Brushes and alphas are super useful. Though they still do have brushes and alphas that you can use in Photoshop. Cody's starting to get on one of the key points, and that is PBR texturing. So it creates, yes, you can create diffuse, bump, and normal all at once, although bump and normal are the same thing for the most part. But the real key here is the specular roughness and metallic that you can create all at once. And so you guys probably haven't watched my Q&As that I do for the online crew, but I make a big deal out of roughness because roughness is a big deal, especially in PBR, especially when you're doing Substance Painter, because there is so much you can do with roughness. And if you guys haven't been using roughness, I'm going to do my, actually, I think I still have him. Where is he? Where is he? Nope, I don't have him. I don't have my wag the finger anymore. I'm going to do a wag the finger. Oh, I do have it. It's right here. Hang on. If you have not been using roughness, I'm going to use a very old joke. Wag of the finger. Wag the finger. I'm such a... That is such a dad joke. So yes, roughness is extremely powerful, especially when you're doing PBR texturing. So that is one of the things that definitely Substance brings to the table. You can work with all of those channels at the same time on one layer. So that is something that it definitely brings to the table. You guys are missing like the real key, like obvious part of why we use Substance Painter instead of Photoshop though. I'll give you guys one more guess. Cody, you got it again. You can work in 3D. Like it's so much easier than doing it in Photoshop and just kind of guessing what it's going to look at in 3D. And this is a major thing. Like I have been texturing avidly since like 2005 when I was a student. And I'm going to tell you, like, back then it sucked because you would make textures and you'd throw them on your models and they'd look like garbage at first. And I had this like emotional journey I like to tell students about called the iteration process, which still exists. It's just much, much easier and much less emotional because when I would texture anything, my first dozen or so tries looked like garbage. It looked like total garbage. And I was always like, man, what am I doing? I suck at this. Can't believe I'm trying to be a 3D artist. And then I would go in and I would iterate on it and make revisions. And then I would put it on my model and it would look like slightly less garbage. And I am not kidding. I would iterate on things between like 20 to 60 times before they got where I want them to do. And then like eventually I would start to be like, hey, it looks pretty good, but I can kind of fix this. And you know, that's where we started to get closer to the actual number that I finished at. But now in Substance Painter, you can actually see what it's going to look like. And you still sometimes have to do some iteration. Once you export it out, iteration is a very normal thing. I want you guys to not feel bad that you ever put something in Maya and it looks like garbage the first time, because I can tell you as a student, the first time I put textures on my stuff, absolute garbage. Even when I started to know what I was doing, like every time, first go, absolute garbage. But I kept at it. I knew what I was doing. I'd make revisions. I'd be like, okay, well, I think this is why it's not working. And then I'd go into my textures in Photoshop and make some changes and throw them on there. But there was a lot more iteration back then. And it was because you didn't know what it was going to look like. And we didn't have a lot of cool things that we have in Substance Painter that we didn't get into yet, like procedural effects. You had to hand paint all of that where you wanted it to be. And it was a massive pain. So Substance makes a lot of those things so much easier because they have procedural ways of doing it. They allow you to paint in 3D so you can actually see what you're doing on the model instead of like guessing in Photoshop. I always meet these guys who are like hardcore Photoshop people who are veterans who are like, they should learn how to do it like we did it because we had to do it this way. And my argument is always like, yes, you all should learn Photoshop 100%. Photoshop's a good tool, but Photoshop is not a texturing tool, and it never was, is my argument. Like, because, man, I'm just going on a tangent today, but like Photoshop is a photo editing tool, and we just used it for textures because it was the best thing we had until Substance Painter came along. But we did teach you guys Photoshop because you should still know those techniques. We're just not going to make you heavily lean on them in the future. So, all right, that's my tangent. I don't know, a whole tangent. A weird morning energy. Are you guys still with me? Did my tangent scare you off? Okay, so there's a couple of things that we are going to need before we start. Number one, we need our tablets because texturing with a mouse is just insanity, and it always has been. Number two, we're going to go and need to export some objects out of Substance Painter. And number three, for anything wood grain, I actually like to start with a tiled image that we bring into Substance Painter. So specifically, we're going to do the desk, and the desk, I'm going to bring in a wood grain image that I've already tiled in Photoshop, and I'm going to use that as my base. Plus, I think this is a good thing to teach you guys because you should learn how to create your own textures that you're going to use as a base starting area for Photoshop. Because a lot of the things that we've already taught you to do, which is to make like a texture in Photoshop and apply it to a model, we're still going to kind of expect you to do that. That's just kind of the starting point, because we're going to do a lot of awesome things to these models in Substance Painter that you would normally wouldn't be able to do. Well, you would be able to do them in Photoshop, but they would take a lot more work to do. So, but we're going to really start jumping into some detail, and I like to call this detail, I generally call it wear and tear, but I like to refer to it as adding some history to your model. So if you think about any object in your house, like for example, I'm going to use my desk. My desk does not look like a desk that is new. I've had this desk for probably 15 years, and there's all sorts of things on it. Like there's some water rings right here where I don't know how they get there because they're under my coaster, which means that I don't use it all the time. And then there's like scratches and scuffs and like little places where the paint has chipped off, I guess. And so like that's a desk, right? A desk isn't brand new. It has these water rings. It has scratches. It has like paint that's stuck on here for some reason. And we're going to start thinking about that sort of thing and how to add that to a model and make it look realistic, make it look like it has history, make it look like it's not brand new. Obviously, you know, expect people to clean things. So if they get super dirty, they're not going to be that dirty. But like another thing is, and we're all notorious for this, I'm going to bring this up. Look at your MacBook or your keyboard. My keyboard is grody as heck, and I really need to clean it. Like I don't know how keyboards get so nasty. And my Mac keyboard is the same way. Like, I don't even know what that stuff is, but there are definitely smudges and gross stuff on there. Same with the keyboard. I've got all these like black spots on my keys. I really need to clean it. But that's the sort of thing I'm talking about. Like, that's detail that should be on your texture. It exists, and when it's not there, it doesn't look real. And so that's actually one of the things that, as an environment artist, I push other environment artists and definitely my students to do, because that sort of thing makes you from, okay, kind of an environment artist to, I need to consider hiring this person. So it's definitely something you guys really want to do. You want to pursue a career in this. And in fact, one of our full sub graduates, who I keep in touch with, he actually works at Naughty Dog, and he worked on Last of Us 2, and if any of you have played it, it's the aquarium, and that is like the best environment in the whole game, in my opinion. And I have a couple of friends over there at Naughty Dog. One of them is actually a friend of mine from when I went to college, and I was talking to him about the game, and I was like, yeah, that environment, that aquarium, that is like my favorite place in the whole game. And you know, it's relevant for story reasons, is why they spent a lot of time on it. But like, there is great texture work in there. And I told him, like, I thought that, and he's like, oh, that student of yours, what's his name? I'm not gonna say his name. He was like, he did a lot of that. I was like, what? Cool. So I like reached out to him, and we had like a good conversation about it. And yeah, he did a lot of cool substance work in there. And like, that's the sort of detail that I'm talking about. Like, that detail. Go, if you guys have that game, boot it up and go to that aquarium, because there is some really good texture work in there. That guy knows what he's doing. I'm very proud that he's one of my students. So anyway, we are going to export our stuff from from Maya into Substance. And one thing I think you guys haven't done a lot of yet is actually taking your textures from Substance and bringing them back into Maya. I know you've done Substance, because I think 3DF teaches Substance, and I know MCR does, because I'm pretty close friends with Adam Fadka. I believe he was Game Art. I don't know for sure, because I don't always know which you guys are. But yeah, I'm just in like talky moods this morning. Anyway, let's really quickly talk a little bit about Substance Painter stuff that we're going to go over. We'll go over a little bit the basic interface, but I know a lot of you already know it. Pretty same to Maya. Alt left rotates, alt right zooms, and then alt middle mouse pans. You can do this with a tablet if you set your pen up to work that way, which is why it is important that you have tablets. We're going to bake out our maps. I know you guys kind of know how to do all this stuff, so we're not going to spend too much time. I am going to kind of get into a lot more of the brush details and what they do. I hopefully will remember to tell you the difference between tangent and UVs. The big thing is, if you set it to UVs, the brush will kind of respect UV borders a little bit more. If you set it to tangent, it's going to paint over them like they're a seam that needs to be painted over. If you set it on UV, it's going to kind of try to acknowledge the seam and be like, all right, we're not going to try and paint this other area you're painting because you kind of told me you don't want me to. Layers and channels. So I'm going to get big into this. We're going to be using layers, channels, and masks a lot. Have any of you used masks in Photoshop at all? Yes, Cody definitely has. I'm going to tell you this. If you have not been using masks in Photoshop, you are putting yourself at a disadvantage. Masks, man, even back in 2005 when I started texturing, when I learned how to use masks in Photoshop, total game changer. But we're going to be using masks in Substance Painter. They work exactly the same. You put a mask on something, and then whatever's on that layer, if you paint black in the mask, it's invisible. If you paint white in the mask, it is visible. Masks are a game changer. Definitely use masks. They're pretty great. We're going to be using that in with the channels. And so channels and layers are really, really cool in Substance Painter. because you can paint in all 4 channels at the same time. And especially in the way that we're going to be using them, you can have really insane amounts of control over them because of you can actually change the opacity of the layer. You can change per channel, per diffuse, bump. I'm going to call it height. Diffuse, height, roughness, and metallic. You can actually have change the opacity control on that layer. And you can, do sort of blending modes and all sorts of things. We're going to really get into that. I'm not going to talk about occlusion and emissive channels, but those are channels that exist and they're super powerful. Emissive is kind of glow effects. So an example early on I remember from when I was learning Substance Painter is they had a character that was a lava monster. And he had hard rock parts all over, but where he had lava, he had an emissive channel, and he actually kind of glowed in that channel where they painted in that channel, which was really cool because that was where the lava was. And then we're going to talk a little bit about procedurals. And in our case, I'm talking smart mass. I don't want to really get into smart materials, and here is why. Smart materials, they are great. I'm not going to say they're not, but smart materials are something where somebody has gone in and they've put a lot of work in to make something look really good. It's another artist, and it's work that you guys can totally do. But it's the sort of thing where everybody who does Substance Painter work, they know what all the smart materials are, and nobody just throws a smart material on. They throw it in, they edit it, they make changes to it, they use it in conjunction with other smart materials. And I see a lot of students use these as a crutch. They'll just put them on their model and be like, oh, that's supposed to be brass. Here's brass. And that's it. That's all they do with it. Don't do that. So we're actually going to avoid using that. And the reason is a lot of these are things that you guys can easily build yourselves. And I want you to understand what's going on in a fundamental level. And using smart materials kind of skips that step. You don't really understand what's going on in them because you haven't taken the time to understand how to build materials yourself. We will use some base materials, definitely. But those are this is just brass and it doesn't have any of these cool wear and tear effects on it. We're going to add that in. But smart mass, on the other hand, are something that somebody programmed to do this thing. And then we get to play with the sliders. So we are going to use a lot of smart mass. And this is kind of how they work. I threw one on here and I used the different channels to kind of show how it works, or different colors. And then here's how I actually ended up using it on a material. And then we're going to come back into Maya. All right, that's it for my slides. I'm just going to stop isolating my desktop. And let's do some demo. You guys ready? Okay, so I have my little scene here, and I've prepped it a little bit. Oh man, I totally stuffed up. This is not cool. I've prepped it. We're going to bring a number of assets in, and so I've already I've prepped those because I've UV'd them. A lot of these are UV'd so that if you're doing textures like you did with lectures 7 and 8, you're doing Photoshop UVs, you can definitely just sort of throw these on there and be good to go. But they won't work for Substance Painter, and that's because Substance Painter requires collage UVs. Collage UVs basically mean that no UVs can be overlapping. So I know you guys know how to UV, so you're gonna have to UV some of these. That doesn't mean that you need to planar project. It just means that you need to change the layout of the UVs so nothing's overlapping, and that can be on a per material level. In fact, actually, I know there's a problem with this desk drawer that I forgot about. So we're going to fix that real quick. That'll give me a chance to kind of talk about what's going on with the UVs. So yeah, this is the problem. This face right here, somehow, I don't know, this particular face is somehow like different. And I gotta fix that. So, wait, what is going on here? Frank's models are a little weird sometimes. Isolate, select. Oh, that is, what are you doing, Maya? That is just super weird. Okay, fine. Is this the back shell? Is that what's going on? It's just in the wrong place. All right. Lost my shelf when I moved to 2020. There we go. Wonder what it was attached to. So we're missing a face. What? No, we're missing apparently this face. Okay, so this may look like I've got overlapping UVs, but what I did here is something a little bit clever, and I want you guys to kind of be aware that you can do this yourself. So what I actually did, if we look at our UVs, and I need a lot more screen space to show this, is I am collaging the UVs by UV shell. So if you look at any of my UVs, I'll go select objects with material, and that is not overlapping. But if I go to the desk legs, which we're not going to be texturing, they're not overlapping either. Actually, they are in one small place, but whatever, because we're not texturing those. But if we look at the desk base, this is not overlapping. And actually what I did is I used a lot of the layout tool, which I don't remember where that is, but it's a really good tool. I think it's in the UV shelf. So where is it? Arrange and layout. So right here. And if you know what you're doing, this can really help you out. But if you look at all the things that we're going to actually texture, so I'm also going to texture the mug. You have to re-UV this, and you have to make sure there's no overlapping. And then we're also going to do the thermos, which I know I put a material on. Here it is, chrome thermos. This, I had to change the UVs as well. The desk looks a little weird because things are overlapping based on material, but it's fine. So that is what I went ahead and did. I'm actually going to save what I just did, and I don't normally save over my files, but oh no, did I change the camera for the desk? I did not. Good. Oh wait, did I change the camera for the living room? I did. Bad. Of course, I don't really need it for this particular assignment. Oh no, I ruined the living room camera. Does Tony bookmark this? Tell me he bookmarks these. Yeah, he does. Good. Tony is smart. Tony Saxon, not me. I'm kind of smart. I'm not his smart. So the other thing I want to tell you about is that there are objects in the scene that have smoothing. I think this is one. And if you press 1, they'll go all wonky like this. This is bad for us because this is going to go into Substance Painter like this in 1. So this is still a powerful technique if you guys use 3-key smoothing, but you have to know what it is. And basically, you can model like this, but if you do, just put it back in 1 and then go to Mesh and go to, where is it? Mesh. There it is. Go to Smooth, and you probably need to do it twice, and then your object will retain a similar level of shape to what it just had. I'm going to undo that. Put it back in 3. We're not actually taking that in, so I'm not going to mess with it. I'm using that as an example because the coffee mug is one of those objects. The thermos, I'm not sure if it is. A lot of these I've gone and made this file, so it's kind of ready to export. And so I'm going to grab some of this stuff. Yeah, that's fine. I'm not actually going to export the or going to texture the Chromebook. You can, but I just want it in so I kind of know where it's at. Oh, and I'm bringing the coffee. So then we're going to go to File. We're going to go to Export Selection. And you won't get this window. You're going to get a window that's going to have the Maya save out file. And it's also going to have some things on the right-hand side. And those are going to pop up after I do this part. I just have changed my settings. I like this particular exporter. I've also changed my project folder so I have this scene FBX folder in it. I've just added this. I like this because it kind of gives me this area where I can put my FBXs. Again, personalized workflows, they're a good thing. Actually, we're going to do this. And there we go. So this is what I was talking about. This will be on the right-hand side. You want to make sure you don't have animation checked because that's just going to make the file size bigger. Oh, man. I am not enjoying weirdly being stuffed up this morning. Oh, my allergies are killing me. Other thing I want to draw attention to, this is an advanced option, this FBX file format. So just a little thing to keep aware of. If you use any FBX file format that is newer than the 2014-2015, for some reason, the FBX will not re-import back into Maya. This is not going to be an issue for us today. They'll still work in Substance Painter, in Unity, in Unreal. Anything that you would export a model into, they typically work. It's just going backwards in the pipeline for some reason doesn't work anymore. I also couldn't give this to another artist that is using 3D Studio Max or Blender or Cinema 4D or any of those. It wouldn't work unless I change this option. Just something to be aware of. I like to set it up like this because one day you may be working on a project with somebody and you'll give them an FBX and they won't be able to use it if you don't know about this. Okay, so I think we're ready. Yeah, we're ready to get rid of Maya. Now let's talk substance. And I don't know what this is over here doing. Let's talk substance, and not substance painter yet. We're going to talk about the substance launcher. Now, you guys don't need the substance launcher to use substance painter. I just highly recommend it. What it is, it's a nice little tool, and it just has all your versions of all these substance softwares. You can check to make sure you've got the right version, and then just update in here. Don't you wish Maya worked that way? I do. So you'd be like, oh, Maya hotfix is out, new version, click, download, okay, done. Has Substance Designer, which is a really cool tool that I do use, but I don't have installed on this computer. Substance Alchemist, another cool tool, which if we have time, and I've been riffing, so we probably won't, we can go into, and we show this off. I did show it last month. What I really want to talk about is Substance Source. Now, this is a great little tool. This is where Substance Paint, or the guys at Logarithmic, they make a bunch of materials, and this is where they really make their money, because the Substance library has all of these materials. They're substances, and there's tons of them. Ooh, there's some I don't already have. Yes, please. This is the free assets section. So I like to go in here and claim everything I don't have. Ooh, rough rock surface? Yes. Cracked paint on plaster? Yes, please. I'm just going to download all these and use up my internet. Oh, they added a bunch. Bark. I thought I downloaded this one. Banana peel, sure. Why not? And so these all work with Substance Painter, with Substance Alchemist. You can just bring them in. And they've basically tried to make it so you don't even need to make textures anymore unless you want to make something custom. You can just go and download the stuff that they've already made and pay them to do it. And if you pay for a subscription, I pay for a subscription and I have another machine, you actually get assets where you can download anything from their library, not just the free area, and use up points. And they give you points like every month. I have like 300 points or something. So it's a really good tool. I recommend checking it out. You can also go into the 3D models area, and they have an alliance with Sketchfab. So you can go in and you can look at these assets in 3D. Let's check out shipping a model. And then you can actually just download these straight into Substance Painter and kind of see how they were textured, which is really cool. Have I downloaded all the things that I greedily tried to sweep up? No, I have a bunch. I'm so greedy. But it's like, it's free. It's right here. It's free. Oh, there's more. Okay, we're going to go get away from here, or I'm going to be here all day just downloading things. Okay, Substance Painter. Let's launch it. No, no longer have a dragon launcher. That's it. Okay. Painter time, painter time. I love me some painter time. All right. So file, new, and select our FBX, which is right here. We're not going to do the exterior because I didn't prepare the Maya file because I forgot I had to until I didn't have enough time. So we'll do the interior instead. If you want to see the exterior painted in Substance Painter, you got to go back and watch an archive in March, which will be 2021-03. But because I try to switch it every month, but I forgot to prep the scene, so I can't switch this month. All right, we don't really need to mess with any of this. Default document size, you know what, let's set the default to 512. And then we'll just upgrade it if we need to. Go ahead and hit OK. There we go. Here's our little scene. It's going to separate things out by material. So if you go over here, see all the materials that I have assigned, many of them related to the desk. Some of these I'm just going to kind of like leave defaults. I just kind of want to know where things are. Some of them I'm just going to throw material on and just kind of like give me a good visual. We're only really going to do the mug. We're going to do the desk drawers, and the thermos. That's all we're really focusing on today. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and bake our textures. It's always the first thing we should do. Bake mesh maps. So go to selection, and I am going to select not the Chromebook. We are going to do the Chrome Thermos. We're not going to do the coffee. We are going to do all the desk things. We're not going to do the MacBook. We are going to do the mug. Not going to do plastic ring. Now, this is a little annoying, but what I have to do now is I have to go into each one and I have to select my options for what I'm going to bake. Not maps wise. So we're going to turn off normal. We're going to turn off material ID. I don't know if any of you have used ZBrush, but if you have, the ability to bake normal maps is a really good thing. The idea is you'll have a high resolution model and a low resolution model, and you will bake the details from the high resolution to the low resolution model using Substance Painter. It is a good workflow. We just don't need to do it for these assignments. And the material ideas are also really good, but I haven't set them up, so we're not going to deal with them. But one thing I do need to do is I do need to go into my desk, especially my desk base. No, I want to select that one. Comment. There we go. And I want to go to, probably going to be annoying, R2 save settings. It's probably going to make me go select desk base here. We're going to go to bake mesh maps again. And what I really want to do is I want to make sure that, especially for the desk, I want to make sure that I have the ambient occlusion set to self-occlusion, only same mesh. And I'm going to do the same with the thickness. Oh, here's where you change it. And then the annoying thing is if I was to go to something else, let's say the desk drawer, I have to set that again. And we'll go to the mug. And we'll go to the, where's the thermos? Okay. And then we just bake these out, bake selected textures, boop. It does all the things. Okay, cool. So now you can see we have these ambient occlusions on them, which are handy. If we go to our project, we have all these maps baked out. Next, we need to add some textures in, some resources that we're going to be using. So first we should save. Saving is good. And you'll notice if I go to my Maya project folder, I've also created a substance folder right here. I have all my substance files in. A very specific workflow. I'll tell you, owning my own company has made me realize how important this is, where it's like, no, I have my own Maya project workflow. That's what works for me. Okay. Let's add some stuff in. So first off, if we go to environment settings, I'm going to make this visible. You can see that we're like out in this cornfield. These hills, actually, this is a bunch of hills on a prairie. And this is not where I would normally expect to see a desk. Most of these are going to be outside. There is a really good interior called Tacoma. This is like a studio environment. If you don't have a dome light that you're already using, this is a good dome to use instead. You can use actually some of these more basic ones, which is just kind of like, oh, it's in a space. And this actually does affect the lighting on your models. And the whole point behind this is you want it to feel more like it's going to feel in the actual environment that you're putting it in. So you try and get a similar dome light. You know, there's a bunch we can look at. Obviously, my desk is not going to be out here on a cliff next to the ocean. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to import our own dome light, and it's going to be the same one that we're using for the environment. So let's do that. We're also going to import some textures and stuff. So we can go right here to the little button on the shelf, and we'll get the import resources. That's the like square with an arrow. I'm going to add resources, and then I can go add all my things, which are hopefully all in the source images folder, I hope. So is this the one I want? Yes, that is my dome. And then I think I should have SP source files. Yep, here it is. So we need some wood grains. We need our logos. I've got a water ring. I need to take that alpha. I don't have my cookie. Curses. I'm gonna have to fix that. All right, let's bring those in. We have to define them. So this is our environment. That's our dome light. Alpha is an alpha. Star Labs logo is an alpha. Water ring is an alpha. And the wood grains are textures. Okay. And where does it go? You can have it saved to your shelf forever. You can save to this project, or you can save to your current session. I don't like current session because if I close Substance or it crashes, I lose all of my stuff. I have to re-import it. I'll put it in the project, which does make your file size a little bit bigger. So that is the cost there, but this is what I like to choose. We'll go ahead and we'll import. So there's all of our things. And now if we go to the environment, we should be able to see our HDR. Where is it? Here it is. So here's our parking lot. I'm going to actually increase the exposure a little bit because we would get some light from, well, it just would be brighter. But we want it to look like it's still inside, so I'm not going to increase it. This is what it would look like if it's outside. I'm going to decrease it a little bit so it looks like it's still inside. But it is close to that window, so it's going to get a lot of light. And then I like to keep the environment on and just blur it a little bit. A lot of people are like, no, I want my environment totally turned off. By the way, you may have these things out as shelves. I just click the X and disable them. You can pull them down and be like, oh, I want this visible all the time. It takes up a ton of space and you rarely use it. So I click the X and then it's just over here whenever I need it, which is good. All right. Let us begin some Substance Painter stuff. Fun. Okay, so we're on the desk. This is great. Actually, I want to be on the mug. So here we are. We're on the mug. And now, if I want to paint, normally I would just grab, the old paintbrush and be like, all right, I want to use some blue. And I paint blue on, and I'd be like, all right, I got to paint the whole thing. But then if I want to paint red, I go to red, and it's like, all right, well, that's orange, but whatever. And I have to paint all the way over. Now, the problem with this that I don't like is even if I can control my roughness and height here and stuff here, two resources that you've added, do we have to find those, like the downloaded resources? No, you guys need to make them for the most part. These are all things that I've created in Photoshop, with the exception of the dome. And actually, I forgot one that I need to add in, the AAA logo. I've just inverted this in Photoshop, so it's like this. Need to add that in. That is an alpha. And so you can see there in my project. Now, I was talking about layers. Now, a lot of people do this where they can just kind of add up. And even if I create another layer and start painting on top of that, this is sort of an awkward workflow. So what I like to do instead is I will delete my regular layers, and I will always, you guys see it, I always use this as a paint bucket. This is a fill layer. What a fill layer is, it's a layer I can't paint directly on. And so I'll be like, all right, well, I want it to be, that sort of blue. And then I want it to be like low roughness. So I'm going to lower my roughness. And I don't need metallic because it's not metal. So I'll turn that off. Actually, we're going to turn normal off altogether. And so I'll just be like, all right, I don't really need any of that. So I'm just going to leave that. And then if I want to paint on top of that, I'll add another fill layer. And I'll be like, all right, well, this one, I'm going to add a little bit of height to, and I'm going to make this a little bit more rough. It doesn't need to be metal. And I'm going to leave this at like a nice red. And so you're like, well, but you can't paint on it. So what do? Mask. I add a black mask. And now, sorry, that's my alarm from when I normally get up. Now, if I paint in the mask, I can control where the red is. And also I can press X to switch to black, and I can control where I don't want it. So this is the sort of workflow that I like to use. It's heavily using masks, always using fill layers. I'm actually going to kind of keep that. And there's a lot that we can do with masks. I'm only scratching the surface, but this is how we're going to go ahead and work. Where is my reference? I know I have it. My voice is like so strained. I don't know why. I know I have a substance reference folder. Here it is. Okay. So here's my coffee cup. So I'm going to try and make the Star Labs coffee mug. I have a reference of it in the environment, so I know how it reflects the environment, but I like these colors better. So we're going to go with this color scheme, but this is our reflectivity reference. And how are we doing with that reflectivity? Yeah, it's pretty smooth, and it should be. Maybe a little bit more roughness. But yeah. There we go. And now I have the Star Labs logo. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to add a white layer. It's going to be slightly off white. Color, bluish color still. That's purple. Yeah, there we go. That's nice. I don't know why it still thinks that's blue, but it's not. I am not going to give it any height, so I'm going to disable that channel. I'm going to give it, again, a little bit more roughness and no metal because it's not metallic. We'll deal with metal when we get to the thermos. And now we add our black mask. So now we can paint our stuff in here if we wanted. But I have another trick to show you guys. And this is the power of stencils. So we're going to throw on our stencil. Get in there. There we go. And we can actually do it in 2D and 3D as well. And I usually try to do this in the 3D viewport or in the 2D viewport just because it tends to get it a little bit straighter. And let's go back to our reference. Where is it? So oh, that is the reverse. Dang it. Well, we're going to go the other way because I don't have the texture reversed. I could just put it on the other side, but then you wouldn't see it from the camera, and that would be annoying. All right, so if you paint, we paint in here. Look at this. It's only painting in the white areas of the stencil. And I forgot to mention, you can control its position with the S key. So I could like, which I'm probably going to have to. S, right click this over here. I'm probably going to have to undo. So you can, middle mouse button will scale it. And right mouse button will pan it. And then if you hold S and drag, you can rotate, but we don't want to do that. Oh no. Undo did not do what I wanted it to do. Black mask. Okay, there we go. And then we just paint. Star Labs. Okay. There we go. And now it's on our mug, and it's way too big. Dang it. I need to shrink it down a little bit. All right, that should be, that looks pretty good, right? It's annoying that the stencil is in the way here. Yeah, that's good. We'll leave that. Now, the cool thing here is because I have this mask on, if I go back to my layer here, I could change this color. I could be like, you know what? All right, it's orange now. I don't want it to be orange, but I could go in and I could be like, all right, I could change the roughness. I could actually change the height if I wanted to. So I could do all those things. Cody, you have a question. Yes, you may unmute.
Yeah. So how does so when you're affecting the roughness and the shininess of it in here, how does that affect the already like adjusted materials that we made with like specular and the roughness in Maya?
So it creates a texture that you can plug into the roughness channel that will override the material setting that you already set.
So doing materials first and then texturing isn't really a workflow.
Yes, it is, because are you going to put textures on every single object in the scene?
Okay, so yeah, just the things that you're not gonna texture.
Plus, it's also good to get like figure out the base material in Maya. But then again, like I said, we're not going to be creating textures for everything. So it's still a useful workflow for that because certain objects don't have textures. Is that it? Do you have any more questions?
Not at the moment, so thank you.
Okay. By the way, I need to make sure to name my layer. Okay. So I should also mention that we're not going to be replacing all of the channels for the mug. It's just going to be the color, the roughness, and the height. So this is a good starting point, but you'll notice I have other reference because, as I talked about, this should be a coffee mug that somebody's been using for a few hours, or at least an hour. And coffee mugs don't stay clean for very long, especially if there's coffee in them, which, if you remember, ours does have coffee in it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this a dirty coffee mug because somebody's been drinking coffee out of it for a few hours. And by the way, I also really like the idea of creating a narrative to go with your environment. And you should do this in texture work. Think about the environment. Think about the people who live there. Think about what has happened recently in that environment to create these kind of texture effects. I figure this guy's pulling an all-nighter. He's been working really hard. He works at this desk a lot. He's an avid coffee drinker. Maybe there's coffee in the thermos too. And so this coffee mug is going to be a little dirty. So let's go ahead and start making it dirty. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to start adding some like drip effects. So I always find it helpful to kind of figure out the coffee now. And I'm not even going to take the texture from the coffee, but this just kind of helps me figure out in my head what the coffee looks like. So I'll go ahead and, I actually have reference for this too. But since we're not going to save it, it doesn't really matter. So I'm going to go ahead and create like a base color here, a nice like brown. Maybe it's a little more milky, like some milk in our coffee. So there we go. I just kind of like to set that. Then we'll go back to our mug. Okay. So then I'll make a similar layer here. Actually, let's use a trick. I can go to my color channel by pressing C and just boop. And here's our height, here's our roughness, metallic. Oh wait, should be able to see the roughness. Okay, good. We can see the roughness. Not with this layer, but we're going to put a black mask on it. Press M. I want it to have a little bit more roughness, yeah. No metal. And do we want height? It's a good question. I don't think so. I don't think coffee stains leave a height. So we'll disable that. And black mask. Now, here's some of the cool stuff that we're going to get into. I don't think we're going to use a smart material or a smart mask, but I'm going to show them to you anyway. Let's save. So there's a bunch of things we could use in here. For example, let's just go with paint. And so we could go in here and we could play with this. And whatnot. And we will use some of those later, but not right now. Soft damage, what does that look like? Okay, that's not good. Oh, moisture, that might be good. If we make it more subtle. Yeah, I kind of like that. Let's actually get rid of this, go back to 3D only. Actually, I changed my mind because the coffee wouldn't be creating moisture. There actually is one that I remember thinking works well with the coffee mug. I can't remember what it is. Dang it. Spots. Let's try this one. All right, not bad. I wish it wasn't so low resolution. And we're going to have to play with this because this is like way too obvious of a coffee stain. But we'll work with our base layer later. Okay, so we've got a smart mask. Let's add a fill now. Right click on the mask, go to fill. And fill is basically a blank node that you can plug a texture into. And these are really, really useful because there's a ton of these procedural effects that we can just add. And, you know, I could add something weirdly obvious like this, although it's stupid and doesn't help us. But, you know, there could be uses for this in your workflow. Just doesn't help us today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put one of these grunges in here. And there's several that are great. That is not one. So I think this is the one that I want. Yeah. So obviously out of the bat, it's not useful, but we can change the contrast, change the balance. And we can change the placement. So I can make the, let's just get this out. It'll make it a lot easier. 2D, 3D. So in here, we can just kind of move this around. There's a certain like little effect on it that I like, which is like right there. And you can actually scale it down so it's repeating. You know, we're going to be seeing it from like this angle anyway. So like right there. Yeah. All right. And let's add one more fill on top. You'll find this is what I like to do. I like to make a smart mask, add fills. By the way, our two previous ones aren't working together, so we need to change these to multiply. Sorry, not multiply. Linear dodge add or lighten max. Now you can see that they're working together. Let's add one more grunge in. Not that one. Maybe that one. No. Yeah. Maybe this one. Well, let's see if we can play with it to make it a little bit better. There we go. And we'll make this light and max. Maybe we'll lower the opacity of this one a little bit. All right. Pretty nice. Now, I'm going to go back to my base layer here. And this color, like this is not working. So we could actually change the blending mode on this. Maybe make it a multiply. That's not terrible. That's actually pretty good. We can kind of see it over here. Yeah, we can definitely notice it. It's subtle. It's definitely there. That's actually what coffee would look like. Probably. Or we could turn it to normal and lower the opacity, which I do like better. Well, I like it better on the blue, but not on the white. Curses. I think it's because the color needs to be darker to contrast right. Yeah, I think that's better. Yep. So there we go. Now there is one more thing I'm going to do here. I'm going to right click and add a paint. And what this is going to enable me to do is I can go on and kind of manually get rid of some weird spots. I could add more if I wanted to, but I'm probably not going to do that with this one. I need a better brush. Where's my favorite brush? Where are you? Good old Dirt 2. Crank the medium size, make the size up, take the stroke opacity down. And here we go. Stroke opacity like 50. There we go. And I don't like it being on the handle because why would coffee be on the handle? The handle exists so that we don't get coffee on it. So there we go. What do you guys think? Is that worth coming into Substance Painter to get that extra detail? I think it is. Now we could do one more thing. We could add some fingerprints. So let's do that. Again, no height. We're just not doing height today. We will do some height. Don't worry about it. Roughness, crank those up. And we'll do our black mask. And then fingerprints would be below the coffee, right? So do we want to do a smart mask? I don't know if there's a good smart mask for fingerprints. I don't think there is. Definitely don't think there is. That's okay. We'll just start with a fill. It's funny, I looked over and saw this person needs to wash their mug more. So that's kind of true. I always go a little bit too dirty and then I kind of clean it up until it gets to a point where it looks, the detail I added looks subtle. Oh, I added a fill. I added a fill in the wrong one. And fill here. So I think now the mug looks okay. It looks like a mug someone has been using recently. Water drips. Dang it. That's the one I wanted. You know, I'm really tempted to go and add that now. All right, let's go look at our procedurals. And so there's some fun ones for the mug. So there's these, they're wipies. So these are good kind of dust. And there are some that have fingerprints already in them. I'm just going to go to the crunches because dust spread. Come on, where are the fingerprint ones? Yeah, that's what I want to see. Got to scale those down. Those fingerprints are huge. And then I'm going to do a little trick here, actually. So let's say we have huge fingerprints. We have a lot of them. A ridiculous amount of fingerprints, right? can't do that. So then I'm going to take another fill, add one of these wipes, but I'm going to make this one a multiply. So it's getting rid of our fingerprints. I set that to normal. Or actually, I'll set it to subtract. Now I'm going to turn the opacity down on these, so they're going to be quite a bit less obvious, but this is fun. All right, guys, I got to pause for a second. I really have to use the restroom. So I will be right back. All right, guys. I apologize for that, but I really couldn't wait. All right, guys. Remember, I'm not going to leave it this bad. Hear you in the background talking about how dirty my mug is. Actually, let's fingerprints a little bit too big. Actually, what am I doing? There would be fingerprints all over the handle. Yeah, I wish we could texture this stuff for fun and our own vision rather than reference, because that would be fun. Cody, you should always be using reference, even when you're doing your own stuff. But you definitely can texture in this for fun. Just do it outside of class. You should still use reference. Well, you gotta model the stuff that you want. So I'm kind of taking some fingerprints out here because mostly, yeah, it's a little too heavy-handed. Wouldn't be any right here. Oh, we got a texture seam. Good thing that's not where the camera is. All right. Now, I'm actually going to add some fingerprints back in because there is a brush. Let's just look for it. Fingerprints brush. So we go over here into the options, crank up the minimum flow because it's always way too low. And then where is my angle jitter? I want that super high. Actually, I don't. I just want to rotate the angle. There we go. So put some, because you always kind of, when you're at the coffee pot, you always kind of, you pick the mug up around the edges, right? Okay, too much position jitter. Where is that? Now, granted, right now our mug looks like it's been handled by somebody who has also been handling powdered donuts. But part of the reason why I make these so bad is so dirty is because I need to see what I'm painting. I'm not going to leave it this way. That's insane. I'm going to do it as a lighten, and I'm going to lower the opacity. And then I'm actually going to go to the roughness, and I'm going to lower that a little bit too. But honestly, base color for dust is super not noticeable. It's more about the roughness, which I may have. Okay, that's way too low. All right, it is what it is. Maybe I'll go back to my base color and add just a little bit more in so we can see it. There's those dang fingerprints. The top are a little too noticeable. Yeah, there we go. Coffee back on. Yeah, I'm just going to have to take this diffuse down to like 10. There we go. Now, is that mug really that bad, guys? So that's where we're going to leave that guy. There's not really much more to do to him. Let's go ahead and let's start working on the desk for a little bit. We've only got like 20 more minutes, but I can make some good progress in 20 minutes. Let's start working on the desk. So we're going to go and we're going to switch to desk-based material. Actually, let's go over to our coffee mug real quick. Our coffee. And this should be super low roughness because it is liquid. And I'm going to make this darker. All right. So our desk, of course, again, I have reference for that. Desk base. Darn, I still got to get rid of that UV stretching in those UVs. All right, so delete our layer, add a fill layer, but here's the trick here. Go to my project, got my wood grain, check this out. Drop my wood grain in, base color, boom. So all that work in Photoshop, not wasted effort. Then I can go up here, change the scale. So it's like what? Usually go like 3. I also want this to rotate 90 degrees because I like the wood grain going that way better. Voila. Is that too much? Yeah, that's not too much, I don't think. Yeah, no, that is too much. So there we go. We got a nice repeating wood grain. It made you guys want coffee. So there we go. That's a good way to get a base. Put that in there. We still got to disable the normal. Roughness. I mean, I'm going to have it a little bit low because it should be reflective based on my reference. There we go. It's reflective, but not like super reflective. Good. And let's actually mess with the position here. So I want to change the offset. There we go. All right, that's our base. Sweet. So now we got to think what would happen to our desk. Hang on, I'm going to do something just to make myself feel a little bit better. Desk legs. Grab a basic material. Yeah, rough steel, that's fine. And then we'll change the steel. There we go. Not going to bake that out. I just wanted to put that in there because it makes the desk look whole, which helps me with my desk OCD. Although there's definitely something weird going on in that material, but whatever, we're not keeping it. Okay, so what do you guys think? What should we do to the desk? Well, I'm going to add some stains from the coffee. Probably some fingerprints on this one too. And I'm just going to add some wear and tear. So let's start out with wear. Wood grain height? No, because this desk wouldn't have wood grain height. Hopefully that car alarm will go off soon. It's the same person at my apartment complex every time. They can't figure out their car alarm. Okay. So we wouldn't have height in the wood grain because think about your desk. Does your desk have rough, like visible height difference in it? No, it's polished, it's flat, it's smooth. Now I can definitely like feeling my desk. There's definitely some stuff going on, but that's because my desk is old and it has a bunch of like weird stuff on it. Okay. So let's start with the wear. Now, for this, I like to select a color that's kind of similar. Actually, we should go to the color channel. So kind of similar to one of the base colors, but a little bit lighter, a little bit less saturated. Definitely higher in the roughness. Yes, Cody, we're definitely going to put some mug rings in there. That's going to be the second step. And for this, for the first time, I'm going to use negative height. Not going to use metal yet. So we go to the material then. This is currently what it looks like, but of course we're going to add a black mask. And there are some really good smart masks for this usually. I like to use edge damages quite a lot. It's weird how the damage gets outside the edges, but that is actually what I want. I do want it like over here. Oh, good. We do have some over here. Contrast. Yeah. There we go. But why is it always more over here, less over here? I think it's because that edge is not beveled. So we don't want to make it too much. So actually I'm going to leave it fairly subtle. There's a couple of spots. Just wish the spots were more over here. There we go. So that's the first one. Fabric egg, rocks oxidization. Let me try this paint old one. Maybe this will do what I want. Nah, still focus in the detail. Well, actually, it's not bad. Pull the weight away from the curvature a little bit. I just wanted a couple of more spots, and that's kind of giving me that. So let's add this to linear dodge add so that those two are working together. Ooh, scratches. Yes, please. That didn't do much. Oh, yeah, no, it did. I think. I don't know. Scatter? Oh. Be careful with that. And so with these, with the smart mask, you really just got to play with the settings until you figure out what it's doing. Because they're all different and they change frequently, so I can't remember enough to teach you guys. That's a good chip mark. This guy's been really bad with the front of his desk, but whatevs. Okay, let's add a fill. Oh, dust. We should totally do dust. Ah, that's rust. We don't want that. Let's do this one. Now, I know this is like, whoa, that's a lot of wear. We're going to lower it. We're going to hike up the contrast. Oh, hike down the contrast. Maybe we didn't want to use that one. Try another one. Oh, that's better. Invert. Balance. And what I'm trying to get is I'm trying to get those cracks in there, but there's way, way too many, and they're way, way too obvious. But I do have a solution for that. This is why I always use fills together. So now I'm going to use a second fill. There we go. We're going to use this one. And this one Lower it, but I'm going to crank the contrast up a bit because this one is going to be our subtract. That did not work as well as I anticipated it working. Yeah, it's pretty much just removing everything. So change our plan. There we go. Let's use the scratches. That's what I usually use. Cody, they're generated. They're procedural is what they are. So scratch dirtiness. I want to lower. Oh, no, I don't want to lower it that much. Double scratch. Then dust. What is the dust doing? I don't know. There's a spot for spots that I normally hate. There it is, the spot intensity. There we go. Now we got some scratches. Probably R2. Obvious. There we are. Cool. And so we add this with linear dodge add. Actually, Shane likes the light and max. So I've been trying to use that a little bit more to test it out. So there we go. That's actually not too bad. We're still going to tone it back a little bit. So I'm still going to do another fill that's going to be used to subtract. Fill. Put grunge in here. It's actually not bad. Two. What? Well, that's just silly. All right, so we're going to use that. We're going to set that to subtract. And so what that's doing is it's actually removing some details. And then on top of that, of course, I'm going to add some paint. And then I'm going to go into hand remove with my favorite brush. Some areas that are particularly bothering me. Which there aren't too many of. I like this spot. And then I could actually add in some scratches of my own with this Scratches 2 brush. Gotta be careful though. It's the jitters are basically randomness. So size jitter, not too much. Flow jitter, all right. Angle jitter, yeah, sure. Position jitter, definitely. Let's just add some scratches. Of our own. Where are they? Oh, wow. The flow's too low. Oh, it's this darn minimum flow. I always forget about that. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so that's our wear layer. We're going to do two more. So I'm just going to name them and then we'll go on break. So I'm going to do dust, just naming them because so I don't forget. And then we're going to do coffee stains. Yeah. And fingerprints will pretty much be in our dust. So well, let's actually put that in so I don't forget. Okay, guys, so 20-minute break starting now. Everybody gets to go have a lunch break, make their coffee, go to the bathroom. I will see you guys back in 20 minutes. So that'll be 11:20. All right, everybody. See you soon.